Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair. Today we're going to be checking out a 2001 Gibson SG Standard. Let's check it out. I always like checking out early 2000 Gibson USA guitars. So a lot of people consider that the golden age of Gibson, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, just when they were kind of top of their game and they were making really nice examples with good quality craftsmanship and materials. And yeah, I have a 2003 Les Paul that I absolutely adore. And it's the nicest Les Paul I've ever tried. So it's nice to see some other examples in this era to see how they stack up, especially against newer ones. So anyway, yeah, this one, I picked this one up used locally for a really good price, and it's in quite nice shape. It's got a few dings and doinks throughout, but no major huge scratches or chips anywhere, just impressions and dimples, that kind of stuff. Pretty standard stuff. Someone definitely played this thing. It's got some fret wear, so you can see that there's actually some divots worked into the frets, into the cowboy cord area. This is pretty easy to fix. Basically just a fret file and then a repolish. I don't think it's bad enough that it requires a full level recrown. So we'll cross that bridge as we come to it though. And it looks like someone has done the humbucker ring mod here. So on SGs, the humbucker is just mounted with these two screws to the pickguard. The problem with that is on the back pickup, it needs to raise up quite a bit to be level or to have good string spacing with the strings. So then you have this pickup that's protruding about 3/4 of an inch from the pickguard, only mounted with these two screws. So the problem with that is it wobbles back and forth. You can't quite get a level pickup laying the way it should. So what a lot of people do is they just add a pickup ring, mount it to the pickguard, and that way you don't get the leaning humbucker. It's mounted just like on a Les Paul. So that's a common mod, and yeah, it's kind of helps out a bit with that problem. Everything else is original on this guitar. Got the reflector witch hat knobs and the original bridge and tailpiece and pickguard. It's got a nice rosewood fingerboard on this, and our fret nibs are still intact. Sometimes if you get fretwork done and the tech isn't careful or they're not concerned with preserving the nubs, you can lose those, but these ones are still intact. And we've got our nice mother of pearl inlay with our pineapple on the headstock. The headstock's in really nice shape, not a lot of dings or marks anywhere. And the pickups are the 490R, 498T pickup set, which comes standard in a lot of SGs. And here's a look at the back. Again, pretty nice condition. A few minor dings and impressions. And there's some buckle wear on the back. So that's called buckle worming. It would be rash if it went right through the finish and it was starting to flake off, but this is just impression on the back, so just worming. And I noticed this one's kind of a unique color. So this is considered heritage cherry. But sometimes they didn't mix the dyes quite the same at the factory. So sometimes you get these odd colors sometimes that don't quite match. This one's supposed to be heritage cherry, but it's a lot more orange in person than a lot of the darker red heritage cherries that I've seen. So it's kind of unique. That can happen sometimes with over time with like UV, like sun, can fade a finish like this, but this one is uniformly faded or uniformly the same color, so I'm thinking that's not the case. That just happened to be an extra orangey batch of stain that they used on this mahogany. And then here's a look at the back of our headstock. You can see it has the original Gibson Deluxe tuners, and our serial number dates it to a 2001. One little ding there. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get some specs. So weighing in at a very light 6 pounds, 11.7 ounces. Alright, just getting some pickup readings. So in the bridge position, the 498T is reading a 13.77, and the 490R is reading a 7.55, and in the middle position, it's reading a 4.82. Width of the nut is a 1.68, and at the 12th fret, 2.05. Neck depth at the first fret is a 0.83, and at the 12th fret, a 0.96. Here's a look at our neck profile. So yeah, just a nice standard C, and it feels like not too chunky, more like a 60s style C neck. Alright, let's check out our pickup cavities and our pickups. So you can see our pickups are right there attached to the pick guard, and we've got our 490R in the neck and our 498T in the bridge position. And yeah, it looks like some additional routing was required to make this pickup fit on that pickup ring with the pickup ring, but it was done relatively cleanly there. And then we can see our routes are actually really nice and clean. We've got some additional screw holes in this bridge pickup. That's just where the pickup rings mount to the body. And we've got our long neck tenon here, and it says HC, I'm assuming for Heritage Cherry, and then SGS, so SG Standard. And then we've got someone's little signature up there, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, the routes look really nice and clean. Here's a look at our ABR1 style bridge. So you've got a retaining wire there, and it's branded Gibson ABR1. And it looks like it's in good shape, it hasn't collapsed at all. Sometimes these can be a little bit more rounded because they kind of collapse over the years, but this looks good. And then we've got a full weight tailpiece with our casting mark there. And this one has the ABR1 style thinner bridge posts as well. So here is our wiring cavity. So yeah, everything looks good. We've got those little green disc capacitors, which you see on this era of Gibson. And the pots are all Gibson branded. The routes look nice and clean as well. Alright, here's a look at our headstock. So yeah, pretty decent condition. There's a little bit of dings and marks throughout. Looks like there's a little bit of a chip right here. But overall, nothing too bad. Here's a look at our truss rod. So yeah, lots of room for adjustment both ways. And then our fingerboard looks nice and dark. Those there's another example of the pitting that's going on here in the cowboy cord area. So I'm going to go ahead and repair that and then buff it in the buffer, and then we can see the big difference after that. So fretboard's also a little bit grungy, so it needs a cleaning. So let's go ahead and get rid of those divots and clean and buff the fretboard. And here's a look afterwards. So yeah, super shiny frets, nice clean fingerboard. And I was able to get most of those divots out completely. It's like a tiny little remnants of some, but those are pretty deep, and the only way to get rid of those would be to do a full fret level, and in my opinion it does not need it yet. So these don't affect playability or anything, and eventually it will need a fret level, but not for quite a long time in my opinion. So yeah, these look really good. Alright, so we managed to get quite a nice setup on this SG. So using our notch straight edge, you can see that there is just a very small amount of space between the notch straight edge and the fingerboard, so that means our truss rod's set nice and straight. Alright, then over here by the nut, we'll see our action. When I'm using the 3rd fret, you can see that our string is just resting very nicely against that 1st fret. So that tells us that the truss rod's set nice and straight, and our nut is cut nicely. So very good action there. At our 12th fret, we're sitting at about a 1.5 millimeters at our low E, and just at about a 1 millimeter at our high E. So nice low action. That's where I like to set all my guitars. Alright, we're just going to check the fretboard for any buzzing or fretting out. I'm going to speed this up. If you want to watch this in real time, you can play it back at 0.25 or 25% speed. Alright, so yeah, nice low action and no fretting out or buzzing anywhere. It's also nice and easy to bend with the nice polished frets. So yeah, plays great. Let's go ahead and plug it in and hear how it sounds. Okay, here we are plugged into the One True King rig. That's all you get. So we're going to go through the tones here. Basically, we're going to go through the bridge, and then the neck, then the middle. And we're going to do clean and then do a little bit of overdrive. Alright, let's go ahead. So yeah, it sounds quite nice clean. Let's go ahead and try it with a little bit of dirt. right, final thoughts on the 2001 Gibson SG Standard. Yeah, it feels like a great old Gibson. Yeah, it's really solid. It plays and sounds great. Able to get the action nice and low, so it's super playable. And usually I'm not a big fan of the 490, 498T pickups, but in this instance they sound really great. Like sometimes I have a problem with the bridge pickup being a little bit too shrill, but that was not the case in this guitar. They sound really nice and balanced. You can get some really nice classic rock tones out of them. So yeah, very happy with that. I really like the color. It's not your standard Heritage Cherry color. It's a little bit more orange, which is cool. You see that sometimes, but it's kind of unique, and I really like it. As far as condition goes, it's in really nice condition. Considering the age, I mean, it's only 2001, but that's still like 20 years ago. You got to remember that time marches on. 2000 does not seem like 20 years ago to me, but I'm old, so. Anyway, yeah, there's a couple little finish checks here in the neck that I noticed. A couple dings here on the body, and a few little chips in the headstock. But yeah, nothing major, all little stuff. Kind of player's grade guitar for sure, but it does play great. And another thing I noticed was like 2 of these tuners are a little bit bent. They still work just fine, but your high E and your G tuner just a tiny bit bent. But yeah, definitely worthy of the hype of this era. Just a really solid, great sounding and playing Gibson. But that's going to be it for today. Thanks for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.